Hi, this is Sue Greenwald with Awakened Stories here today with Deanna Carr with the Mystical Moonlight. Hey, Deanna, how are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Today's surprise topic is Milton Hershey. He was the founder of the town of Hershey and Hershey Park, Pennsylvania. For those that
Yep.
don't know, Hershey Park, Pennsylvania is kind of a big deal. It's a giant amusement park, but the town is in the middle of Pennsylvania. It's a beautiful town, beautiful old houses, and just like a pleasant place to visit. So,
Yes.
all right. So I want to talk about Milton Hershey, his life as well as his accomplishments, and you
Hmm.
tell us what the truth is, okay?
Got
He's
it.
born in 1857 in Pennsylvania, born on a small town or on a small farm in a small town, limited education. So they apprenticed back then, okay? They didn't, like always go to school and then college like we do, right? So
Yes.
he had an unsettled childhood, like not a lot of money there, not a lot of stability, etc., a lot of isolation. So he goes into a candy apprenticeship in the late 1800s. So when I say candy here, I'm really talking caramels mostly, hard candy and caramels. Like they didn't really have chocolate like commonly like we do now, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
They had chocolatiers, especially in Europe, that made fine chocolate, but they didn't have what we'll call everyday chocolate for the regular people, right? Like we do now.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So he goes into a candy apprenticeship and then he opened his business a few years ago as a candy shop. He failed. He kept trying, moving around Pennsylvania in that area, kept failing, kept trying. And then if you look at like some of the research, he said he tried putting milk into his caramel, something that was like groundbreaking, and that's what helped him with his chocolate business. Okay. And I'm like,
Hmm.
whatever. Is it really that big of a deal? Okay. So he moves around, lots of failure. He kept persisting, which is, of course, our American lesson, right? And then he returns to Pennsylvania after moving around. He forms the Lancaster Caramel Company and uses his fresh milk in the recipe. It grows into an astounding success. He becomes
Hmm.
the largest caramel producers in the US, employing over 1,300 workers. That's a huge freaking number for the
Yeah.
whatever, late 1800s, right? A huge.
Hmm.
Does everything I've said kind of sound like it's on track? I went through it really quick.
Okay, so some of it is on track. Like he did have a lot of fails. He did persist. The difference is that even though he was in an apprenticeship, he actually ended up going overseas to learn chocolatier and candy making from a different country. It was not just from America. So he learned techniques over there. So him adding milk to the pieces was not his idea. He just saw other people do it. But being the only person over here that did it, that's kind of what made it groundbreaking because nobody else had done it over here. And unless you study under somebody, you're not going to know. They didn't have access to recipes. Nobody really knew how to make chocolate unless you were a chocolatier. Um, so part of that, it did start with caramels. So he did end up adding the milk to the caramels. I forget what it did, but I think it gave it more of the chewier texture. And it was a little bit easier for people to chew and have in their mouth versus the regular caramels. Um, he did have some, let's say, help getting so popular though. You don't go from being a base, you know, person to having 1,300 employees or whatever the number is. Um, he did have a little bit of help there, and if you get my drift, it's not in the great way. Um, Remember, we talked about having a lot of determination and dedication. And for people that keep struggling and trying over and again, and you have this deep desire for that specific thing to work, there does come a time where there is an option on
Right.
a darker side. So he did have a little bit of help, and that's going to lead into the next section. Now we talked about him having a lot of employees, and as most of us know, there's Hershey Park, but there's a town of Hershey. So, what a great way to have all my employees to be in one location, one setting, make them comfy, make them happy. Everything's in one location, so nobody has to leave, nobody has to be unhappy. And then they bring in the spot for young children that don't have parents. It's for orphans, right? Um, yeah,
Okay. So thank you. You've already answered my questions, but we probably should go through it in more detail. Okay. For those
yeah,
who haven't been there. Okay. So
yes.
years ago, I took a trolley ride, an old-fashioned trolley ride through the town of Hershey. And there is a Hershey School for boys. It used to be called, but now it's co-ed. And what they would do is they would take in boys or young children that were orphans. They would teach them, and then when they turned 18, they would give them a suitcase full of clothes, and I think it was like $1,000, and they'd be off into the world with a great education and all that. So what
Hmm.
you're saying is that was really a way for them to get their hands on children.
Yes.
Town.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Now, when I'm on this trolley ride years ago, like almost every house is if they're older houses, they're built in the early 1900s, beautiful, big, well created houses. They're not like cheesy little, like, here you go, beautiful houses. And the
Hmm.
guy told us that, Milton Hershey built all of these, first of all, for his executives, but for the people so that they wouldn't have to travel to work. Nice houses. So they lived very
Hmm.
comfortable. All right.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is that there was a reason for that because they all had money. They were all in the club, all right? And we're talking
Yes.
probably satanic club is what we're thinking, right?
Yes.
Uh, so there was a lot of money to be had.
Yeah. And I mean, it's a great idea. I mean, if you had, he had a lot of money coming in, like millions of dollars, right? If you had that and you had really good employees, I mean, I would set up a really fun spot for them because it keeps the energy up, it keeps them motivated, it keeps them happy. They don't want to find another job. They're content, right? So it was a ploy to keep the good workers. It was a ploy to kind of build a bigger legacy. Because I mean, think about it. You have a whole town, you have a whole amusement park, like your name is everywhere in the grocery stores. I think it's across, in different countries too. Like most people know the Hershey brand, the Hershey name. So he was able to kind of brand his not only chocolates, but he was able to brand his ideology with, loving kids, loving nature, loving, his employees, and giving them a space for happiness and peace after work.
Right. That's exactly what we're told. Okay. So he built the
Hmm.
for the workers so they don't have to go anywhere. They're there. He built the amusement park for their, recreation for their family time.
Hmm.
They built the Hershey Hotel, which is a really exclusive and beautiful hotel with this incredible spa. There's all sorts of activities, like
Hmm.
it's a destination location, kind of out in the middle of nowhere, Pennsylvania, right? And it's
Yeah,
a
it is.
multi-million billion dollar business right now.
Hmm.
Uh, we're talking to how it's not built on, the that of the light. It's built on
Yeah.
pain and suffering of others.
Hmm.
Okay. Let me go through a few of these other points and just give us more detail, okay?
Oh, I got it.
So, when we do research on this, they're not going to tell you that he went to Europe and learned technique elsewhere, okay? That
Yeah.
he magically had this idea and he kept persisting. But he basically built that Lancaster Caramel company. I think he sold it in 1900 or so for something like $1 million or something, and which is worth well over 35 million in today's dollars. And that's
Hmm.
when he started the Hershey, you know, company. He founded
Yeah.
Hershey Chocolate Company, and they tell you it's because they had all this great farmland for the cows to graze. And then he, again, names the town Hershey and incorporated it, and then started building the houses, expanding the factory,
Hmm.
creating all this other stuff. Does that sound like
Yeah.
we're on track?
Yeah, I mean, it was like getting the farmlands. Why pay for somebody else to have, this when we could? So he really built a whole kind of economy just to support this brands because why, like I said, why pay somebody else all of this when you could do it yourself? You could bring in the families. Now, one person could be working in the factory while somebody else is working out with the cows, while somebody else is, finding the chocolate. So it is a way for them to kind of branch it out so more people would be included, but it was cheaper than paying somebody else, like another company, to get this stuff for them.
Right. Okay. So basically, it said that he and his wife could not have children. Because they weren't able to have children, they founded this school for orphaned boys initially in 1909.
Hmm.
And like I said, they would give you a suitcase and all this, and that's the reputation they've had. But it did turn into a co-ed, school, and it's now worth millions of dollars. Okay,
Yeah.
so they have a lot of kids going through there, and they're all supposedly orphans. Okay,
Hmm.
so what you're
Yeah.
saying is that's their access to children.
It's their access to children. And part of the reason they couldn't have children is it was actually part of the contract that they signed.
Oh,
So, a lot of people don't realize, like, usually when you sign contracts on the negative side, there is going to be some sort of backlash,
yeah.
meaning there's something you have to give up or sacrifice for you to get what you want. And in this case, it was having a kid because that is something that they desired.
Ah, okay. So when you say contract, you're saying he signed a contract similar to what Robert Johnson, the blues guitarist, did that we
Correct.
talked about. Okay, just wanted people to know what we're tiptoeing around it, okay? Because the censorship is real. All right.
Yeah.
Um, so, and I do know someone that graduated from the Hershey School, and
Hmm.
he was the nicest person. He is nice. I haven't seen him in years, but he was a neighbor of ours,
Hmm.
really a good guy. And I never had this conversation with him because, I don't know if
Well,
I,
it's also changed over the years. Like we're talking about when he formed it.
yeah.
It might not be as prevalent now, one, because it's easier for this stuff to get out. Plus, it's a huge name. Like I've even applied to, teach at the Hershey School. So
Oh,
it is something that is larger than it used to be. So when it first started, that was mostly what it's about. Now I'm sure there's still stuff happening, but this is mostly when it first came out. Like that was the point and purpose of it. So it might not be as prevalent now, but at one point in time, that is like the purpose of it being created.
okay. Are you going to would you say that the officers, that the guys that lived in these stunning houses way back when, were they also involved in whatever they were doing as well?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, when you have a group of wealthy people, I'm not trying to say wealthy people are bad, but wealthy bad people, let's say, usually they'll live in locations closer to each other. So when they have these group parties with bad stuff happening, it's easier for them to go back and forth. So, staying closer, they're able to, get into the mischief without bringing a lot of attention.
Okay. All right. Good point. All right.
Hmm.
So even back then, they had massive amounts of money. Okay.
Hmm.
Back in the
Yeah.
1900s, massive amounts of money. They built the Hershey Hotel, like I said, the Hershey Stadium, where they have ice skating shows and
Yep.
it's a big deal. Okay, guys. And
Hmm.
they, you know, uh, Milton Hershey did die, but he's known really for bringing what we're going to call affordable chocolate for the masses. So, like I said, it wasn't the fine chocolate from the chocolatiers. It's like regular people could buy the candy, right? And
Yes.
so that's why it became so popular and still is. All right.
Yeah.
Now, one thing is A few years ago, we had a lot of the transgender labeling on products, and they
Hmm.
created a transgender candy bar called Her, slash she, SHE, with a transgender on it. That didn't go over real well. Okay.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, though, their other products did, so they're still in business. But just
Yeah.
like Bud Light when they lost billions of dollars, I think Hershey also did because of that decision to
Hmm.
go with the masses or the popular opinion, and they lost money there as well.
Hmm.
All right. Is there
Yeah.
anything else we should say today about a Milton Hershey or what his legacy is? Like he did leave behind a beautiful town, a beautiful structure, and a really fun
Hmm.
amusement park and all those things, but it was built on darkness. Just
Yeah.
like,
I will say I do miss going to Hershey Park.
yeah,
Like I said, it is fun, especially if you live in the area. So they did like the ideas were good,
yeah,
right? They were fun, but it was built on negative. And of course, when we went there, we didn't really know this stuff at the time. But yeah, I guess the other thing is the chocolate now is not what it used to be, right? Have you ever like craved something? Like once in a while, I'll be like, ooh, I just want chocolate. Like I'm gonna have a Hershey bar. And then you have a bite of it and it just tastes weird. It tastes bad. So I will say they're adding stuff to the products. They're adding stuff that isn't normally in it. It helps stretch it. So the brand itself is starting to go downward. Um, Overall, and I'm talking about for the physical product, not saying like the hotel's nice, the amusement park's nice, but for the products itself, the chocolate itself, most people are realizing the quality,
right,
and they haven't really changed the recipe. So it's the only thing that they're changing is the products they're putting in. They're going for the cheaper stuff, and you can taste it.
yeah,
So if you are a Hershey user, I highly recommend finding a different brands.
right. I don't actually eat that kind of chocolate. Like if I do, it's like the organic and blah blah blah. But a
Mhm.
few years ago, I had a little bit of a candy bar, and I was like, how could people eat this? It's
Yeah.
horrific, over
Yep.
sugar, but
Hmm.
it's almost plasticky, you know?
It does because I will say once in a while I'm a chocolate person. I love my chocolate. I'm a chocoholic as they like to say, but there are times where I'm like, ooh, I could go for like a Kit Kat or I could go for like Alan loves the Reese's cups. We haven't got them in years because they taste like plastic. They fall apart. Like chocolate should not fall apart. Like that means that it's either old. If it's turned white, it's old. So there are things that you can
Yeah.
look at to say this is low quality, but the taste itself, like I will go for a better brand or even a different brand in itself because they taste better, they're a better quality. And some of the times, if you have one, you'll start feeling sick instantly. And I had one bite of one and I felt sick almost instantly. I was like, I'm never getting this again because of what they're putting in it.
Right.
And it's a way for them, like I said, to stretch their dollar, to add filaments, add fillers, so that way you're getting negative stuff in your system and they're getting more profits. And the reason they put so much sugar in is we've talked about this in our sugar episode is when you have a lot of sugar, your body starts craving it. You're gonna want more. So
Right.
if you eat a candy bar a day, you're not going to want to stop. You're going to want to keep coming back because your body needs that amount of sugar for it to feel like it's satisfied and craved, because it is an addictive substance.
Right. Right. Again, I've been to Hershey multiple times. It's a beautiful
Hmm.
town. I'm not bashing that. I guess what I'm bashing, or I don't know if bashing is the right word, bringing to light is the fact
Hmm.
that we've been taught that Milton Hershey left this beautiful cultural legacy, and it was
Hmm.
based on darkness. So,
Yes.
yeah. I guess if anyone has questions, please leave them in the comments. We'll leave it that way.
Yeah. It always helps, guys, because if, we go over this, this is natural talk. We are not scripting anything. We are just going with the flow. If you couldn't tell, um, but if you have questions, always ask them because sometimes we don't really think about that, or we'll think about them after we
Yeah,
talk about it. And I'm like, oh,
yeah,
why don't we talk about this?
yeah,
So if you have questions, always put them in the comments. That way we see them and we do bring them into our Q&As. So don't feel like your voice is unheard. We do see them and we will bring them in.
exactly. Thanks so much, Deanna. Appreciate your time.
Of course. Bye.
Bye-bye.